United Nations office at Vienna, Austria. January 19th, 2004, late morning. Ever since the San Diego incident in May of 1997, the United Nations, as well as the American and the Costa Rican governments, made Isla Sorna an unofficial ecological reserve in a real-life, modern-day lost world. However, this wouldn't stop local Central American ships and airplanes come. Okay, sorry about that. However, this won't stop local Central American ships and airplanes from venturing to the island for illegal ecotourism trips. However, some people would come with far more malicious intents. Dinosaur poachers and dinosaur smugglers had made their way to the islands to illegally hunt dinosaurs as personal trophies to sell organic material like ceratopsian horns, stegosauridae plates, or the hides or teeth or even claws of theropod dinosaurs on black markets. Some of these poachers or smugglers would even try to round up juvenile dinosaurs or dinosaur eggs to be sold to private collectors on the black market or even as personal assets in these poachers/smugglers' private zoos. This led to the founding of the United Nations Dinosaur Overseas Committee, or UNDOC, in 1998, which was an international organization tasked with handling dinosaur activity. In the conference room at the UN office in Vienna, Austria, President was Caroline Rivera, the Assistant Secretary General of the United Nations, as well as Vice Chairman of the UNDOC itself, and Field Office Manager of the U.S. Department of Fish and Wildlife, which was now responsible for dealing with dinosaur welfare. Now, the conference room was slightly small, but it was far from claustrophobic. With a large conference table made with fine, dark Italian maple wood, and the chairs were also smoothly made. The room had a sleek look, with an office landline phone alongside a clean, unused mug with pens, highlighters, pencils, erasers, and white ink covering. And in the back of the room was a detailed world map with specific details and a pair of flags of the United Nations. Vera was a tall, confident, resourceful, rather strong woman in her mid-30s with silver blonde hair, a sleek, informal outfit, and a calculated, professional look to her. She began talking to a handful of high-ranked UNDOC agents in the conference room. Vera began. These here are photos taken of the ruins of the Isla Nublar facilities in February of 1994, such as the abandoned visitor center and the old Tyrannosaurus paddock. Today we are here to discuss the mysterious 1994 engine cleanup of Isla Nublar and Operation Clean Sweep in 1995. See, in 1994, InGen commenced the February 4th, 1994 cleanup of Isla Nublar to see what they could salvage after the Jurassic Park incident. And InGen discovered that all four of their Herrerasaurs had died due to illness. Of the 24 Gallimimus, only 11 remained, and of InGen's twin Parasaurolophus, only 9 remained. This was likely due to hunting from the park's Rex, nicknamed Roberta by the staff, as well as hunting by the Dilophosaurus. Rivera, Dilophosaurus. Rivera continued. Not only that, but all 3 of the Metricanthrosaurs present at the time were found dead, likely due to competition with the other theropods. And of the 14 Brachiosaurs, one was found dead due to natural causes near where the dinosaurs nested. Injun also discovered a surprising amount of a large goat herd that could last for 9 years. And also, out of all the 3 Dilophosaurs, all were found surviving quite well. Concerningly enough, there were several Compsognathus individuals found on Nublar, although none were intended for the Nublar resort at the time. Rivera explained. This was likely due to the fact that some compies had managed to stow away on cargo ships from Isla Sorna to Isla Nublar during the late 1980s and early 1990s. And even worse, although all velociraptors on Isla Nublar were dead, the engine personnel also discovered raptor eggshells and young dead velociraptors. implying that due to the insert of amphibian DNA, particularly DNA of tropical West African frogs, the raptors managed to change their genders. In fact, one of the Triceratops was found dead with Tyrannosaurus bite marks. Not to mention, Indian personnel also found the dead body of their missing computer programmer, Dennis Nedry, on the island, as well as evidence of Nedry's attempts to sabotage the park to sell the dinosaur embryos to a rival company. Rivera continued. Not only that, but nearly all valuable dinosaur embryos were found unusable due to minor tectonic activity by Mount Sibo. Now, considering how Isla Nublar was in a state of instability for the dinosaurs and it was too expensive to maintain them, and due to the success of the 1994 Isla Nublar cleanup with nobody being badly hurt or killed, Injun commenced Operation Clean Sweep in October of 1995, leading to the demolition, disposal, and deconstruction of any and all assets and facilities on Isla Nublar, which cost the company $126 million. Rivera then noticed. However, of course, Engine filed for bankruptcy in 1999, but they were lucky as United Genesis Enterprises bought them out in 2002, just a year after the rescue of Eric Kirby. But, of course, you work for me, and I promise I will help you no matter what. Rivera then assured. Oh, sorry about that, guys. Even after the Isla Nublar and San Diego incidents, we will continue to protect the Gene Guard Act. Chapter 3. Zhu Cheng Dig Site, near Ulaanbaatar, Mongolia, January 23rd, 2004, early afternoon. It was a mostly cloudy day in the vast Mongolian countryside. It was a mostly clouded day. Damn it. With bits of snow scattered around the landscape in the vast meadow-esque grasslands. There were large forested deciduous trees in the distance, but in this area of the Gobi Desert, there were hardly any trees. The air felt rather cool, slightly cold in fact. The air seemed somewhat foggy and moist, and in the midst of this peaceful turquoise Mongolian winter wonderland was the Zhucheng dig site. The site had warehouses, storage facilities, proper tents, proper research tents, and dome-shaped tents, as well as log cabins and makeshift buildings. The occasional mobile homes, quarry exhibit halls, as well as excavation equipment, research equipment, and excavation equipment. Oh shit. Were present on site, alongside research, administration, and curative facilities and fossil preparation laboratories to be sent to display or further research to museums in cities like Munich, London, New York City, and Paris. Present on site was Dr. Nathan Wilson, a naturalist, zoologist, paleontologist, and prehistoric archaeologist and prehistoric anthropologist. Wilson was a handsome man in his mid to late 30s, in fitting work in formal paleontological clothing, a slightly socially awkward but comical and intelligent personality. Also present Wilson was paleobotanist and paleontologist Dr. Ellie Sattler, a former colleague of Dr. Alan Grant. As for Sattler, she was a 48-year-old blonde, attractive woman. She was rather intelligent, feisty, loyal, and had a sense of curiosity and respect for the natural world. Wilson had just shown a few digitalized recent photos of an almost fully intact Oviraptor Philoceratops individual. At the excavation camp, Wilson explained. Sattler, look, this is an almost fully intact oviraptor, toothless beak, bipedal head, crested theropod dinosaur with long legs. Wilson explained. Oviraptor was a theropod dinosaur that lived in the late Cretaceous period here, the Gobi Desert, over 75 million years ago. It stood at around 5 feet tall or 1.524 meters. The Oviraptor was first discovered in 1923 by Roy Chapman Edward of the American Museum of Natural History. He was leading one of many Central Asiatic expeditions in the early 19th century in the Gobi Desert in order to discover evidence of early human history to support the out of Asia theory of humanity's origins. Sattler then continued, as if she knew, but however, he didn't find the remains of archaic humans like Homo erectus. Instead, he unintentionally made significant dinosaur fossils, including the first oviraptor specimen. And the specimen was formally named and described by paleontologist Henry Fairfield Osborn in 1924, and the name oviraptor, which was Greek for egg thief, as it was found fossilized with a nest of eggs, and it was at the time believed that the same nest belonged to the common horned ceratopsian dinosaur Protoceratops, which was native to what would now be the Gobi Desert. Wilson replied, "Yep, that's correct, Dr. Sandler. In fact, for a very long time, it was believed that Oviraptor was a rogue who would have abandoned its children at the earliest opportunity, and that Oviraptor was just that, a thief for dinosaur eggs to eat. However, in 1995, over 35 years after Edward passed away, it was discovered that the nest Edward found was that of an Oviraptor nest, not the nest of a Protoceratops," Sattler remarked. "In fact, considering the egg-eating hypothesis had been debunked a decade ago, it was likely that Oviraptor was an omnivorous creature, and that likely ate plant life, insects, and small animals like small lizards, and likely mollusks and crustaceans from bodies of water," Dr. Wilson concluded. This was proven as during the early to mid 1990s, scientists at the American Museum of Natural History discovered oviraptor embryos inside the eggs. Multiple adult specimens found protective nesting boxes. That's correct, Wilson. This very oviraptor could further boost the understanding of oviraptor Philoceratops even further from the early 1990s up to this point. Just then, a local 18-year-old Sherpa girl who volunteered to help out decided to approach Nathan. She mentioned, "Dr. Wilson, it seems as if you have a letter from US DFW. It says, Indian Corporation, Site A, San Diego Resort." Wilson then told the Sherpa girl, "Thanks," said Sig. "I'll handle the use of the letter from here. You can continue your work at the excavation area." The Sherpa girl walked away, and Wilson looked at the envelope in a confused manner. Hold on, guys, give me a moment. Chapter 4. Wilson questioned to himself. UGE? San Diego Resort? Site A? And the Indian Corporation? What in the world is going on with this letter? As Sattler watched, Wilson opened the envelope, saw a series of papers with the first paper saying, "Industrial Secrets. Do not copy." Thick, bold, hidden lettering. Haley asked, "So, Wilson, what are these papers? Who are they from?" Wilson took a moment to answer, and then he responded, "It appears as if these papers are for a resort in the heart of San Diego, California. And it appears as if this resort isn't just some private luxury resort, it's also an ecological reserve." Sailor questioned, "What do you mean by it's an ecological reserve exactly?" Wilson replied, "Well, I have no idea right now, but the letter is from a company called United Genesis Enterprise, as well as Ingen themselves?" Wilson asked himself in pure disbelief and confusion. "I apologize, but didn't Ingen file for bankruptcy in 1999? They should be disbanded. Defunct company by now." Sattler mentioned. Ingen was bought out from what I've heard. They were bought out by UGE, multinational Japanese conglomerate, as their secondary organization. Wilson remarked, "It seems as if the people of United Genesis really want me to visit their zoological reserve. Looks like one of their most recent Looks like for one of their most recent inspection tests. They even claimed this wildlife reserve would be something right up my alley." Wilson expressed. UGE and InGen also claimed they put drastic measures into their security budget, which is incredibly tanky and powerful as they claim. Heck, they even stated that their ecological safari would make the San Diego Zoo and SeaWorld look like a petting zoo. Wilson stopped talking for the next few minutes, looking at the papers carefully. Sadler questioned, "So, did UGE specify anything else in the paper they sent you?" Wilson paused before answering. UGE also gave a decent amount of detailed information on their facilities for their Site A resort, like the blueprints of their buildings, like UGE's Safari Lodge and their Innovation Center. Wilson then chimed. UGE and Engine even promised to give us over 3.5 years of financial funding for our dig sites, which is simply wonderful. Nathan remarked at Ellie. Ellie, I'm from Oregon, but I've been to many Mesozoic era dinosaur sites around the world. Alberta, Canada, the US states of Montana, South Dakota, Colorado, Wyoming, and Utah. China's Liaoning and Yijian provinces, Argentina, Great Britain, France, Germany, India, Tanzania, Egypt, South Africa, all over Brazil and Australia, and many, many more. And I have never seen anything like this before, which is amazing. Sattler then inquired, "But Nathan, did UGE ever specify when you will be returning back to the States?" Nathan answered, "They said I'll have to be at the local airport at Nalik by January 30th. A small town just 36 minutes from Ulaanbaatar." Wilson commented, "So, Ellie, I guess you will be in charge for most of the operations at the dig site while I'm gone." Wilson didn't have the question that came up in his brain, and that's the paleobotanist. "Oh, by the way, Ellie, I'm not trying to ask you anything personal, however. What happened to that guy who worked for the U.S. Department of State you were married to?" Sattler was puzzled for a moment and questioned, "Pardon?" Nathan then mentioned Mark Degler, the guy who indirectly helped in the rescue of Eric Kirby back in July of 2001. Sally responded, "Oh, him. Yeah, we divorced. We recently divorced 2 years ago." Wilson then commented, "Sorry to hear that." Ellie then reassured, "It's nothing to worry about, Nathan. Mark has been a literal jackass from the moment I met him." "Look, Mark, I made a steak." "Steak?" "Yes." "Look, Mark, I made pizza." "Pizza?" "Yes." Dun, 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 dun. Okay, back on topic. Chapter 5, U.S. Wildlife Relocation Facility, Pennsylvania, January 28th, 2004, early afternoon. The U.S. Wildlife Relocation Facility was a joint facility owned by the UNDOC and the Department of Fish and Wildlife in 2002. As it turns out, this ecological reserve Wilson was invited to was a place called the San Diego Dinosaur Sanctuary, an almost complete, fully functioning safari slash resort slash theme park slash ecological reserve of non-avian dinosaurs. Here in the U.S. Wildlife Relocation Facility, these captured dinosaurs from Isla Sorna were given medical care, if needed, before being taken to the San Diego Dinosaur Sanctuary. Present on site was UGE's head computer programmer and ex-Earth Peace and ex-Earth Justice member, Ethan Davis. Now, Ethan Davis was a somewhat tall fellow, at the age of 27, with relatively short black hair and a very slight beard stubble, as well as the charismatic, resourceful, intelligent, almost cunning, and rather comedic and borderline arrogant personality. Ethan met Jackson. "Hey there, Mr. Jackson. I'm Ethan Davis. Welcome to the DFW's Wildlife Relocation Facility." Jackson replied, "Well then, please tell me a little bit about yourself, Ethan, if you want." Ethan began, "Well then, please. Oh, wait, hold on. Ethan began, "Well, I formerly worked for Earth Justice and Greenpeace, both of which are international environmentalist organizations. However, they are involved with other dilemmas like climate change, deforestation, overfishing, commercial whaling, unchecked genetic engineering, anti war, and anti nuclear issues. Heck, I was even on a few late night TV episodes of Nightline once. Ethan then told a law firm agent. However, as of now, I work for the UNDOC as a level 2 director, and I'm also the lead programmer of the soon to open San Diego Dinosaur Sanctuary. The wildlife facility had a handful of major airfield strips against alongside airplane hangars, taxiways, and parking lots nearby, and a couple of control towers, as well as a few maintenance shops, fuel storage areas, electrified perimeter fences, and guard posts. Vehicle maintenance vehicles, base hospital slash clinic, and group headquarters buildings, and there were also a few facilities present, like the Staff Center, Paleomedical Facility, and Control Center. Monitor Center, I meant. Sorry, guys. And there were also cargo planes and a few military transport aircraft and smaller commercial or private aircraft belonging to the UNDOC and the DFW. While walking through the airstrip, Ethan asked, I noticed some trucks holding steel cages, which I assume is where they transport tranquilized dinosaurs to the park. But what's up with the large cargo planes? Jackson responded, Oh, they use these cargo aircraft to transport the dinosaurs further enclosures in the San Diego Dinosaur Sanctuary. Then the two men encountered a slightly small enclosure housing a couple of stegosaurs, just transported from Isla Sorna. The stegosaurs were either green or light brown in color, with brown plates exhibiting a pale color. The stegosaurs were over 10 meters or 33 feet in length, had a height of 4 meters or 13 feet at the highest point. The stegosaurs also had a phagomizer at the end of their tail that almost curved backwards with larger and a bit thicker back legs and front legs, which were more pillar-like and pillar-esque and a bit smaller alongside pentagon shaped plates running from the back of their bodies. Jackson remarked, Yikes, I know that supposedly stegosaurs are herbivorous dinosaurs, but these creatures look like living tanks. Jackson asked, Ethan, I know you're just the leading computer programmer at the sanctuary, but don't you think the addition of dinosaurs like stegosaurs might raise concern for the park? Ethan chuckled. At the San Diego Dinosaur Sanctuary, the electrified fences of the enclosures are made of heavy prone steel, and our security measures have been boosted even further to accommodate some of the deadliest animals ever in Earth's history. But these spinal plates are mostly for defense or potentially for from or regulation, making the Stegosaurus stenops a fascinating but deadly creature for the sanctuary. If you remark, Stegosaurus, a Theropian stegosaur dinosaur from the late Jurassic period over 155 million to 145 million years ago in the United States, in the US states of Colorado, Utah, and Wyoming, as well as India, Portugal, and South Africa. Oh, wait, hold on. Forgot to put in one more country. China. China. Seriously, I forgot though. Sorry about that, guys. Please ignore that. Jackson then noticed a few cages with a handful of small bipedal lizard-esque creatures that were almost like reptilian featherless birds. Jackson asked, Whoa, Ethan, do you know what dinosaurs are these ones? Ethan responded, Those are Compsognathus or whatever, or Compies for short. Small chicken-sized theropod dinosaurs that lived 150.8 million years to 145 million years ago. In what is now Germany and France, Compsognathus individuals had a scaly green reptilian color tone, slight feathering across their back and arms. The Compsognathus individuals also had distinct dark greenish blackish striping and yellow eyes with sharp teeth and no fangs. Compies also had 3 fingers and 3 bird-like toes. Compsog- Comps- Compsognathuses, Compsognathus Compsognathus individuals also have a slightly long tail that never touches the ground, and its body has a sleek, slender, almost snake-like look to it. Jackson remarked, Good riddance. Do these things look annoying? And besides, are these things hostile to humans? Ethan responded, "No, visitors have haven't ever have ever come to Sorna in a very long while. Combies have no real need to fear humans, really. Not only that, but combies would only eat small mammals, small lizards, insects, and other prey. Combies also might have been scavengers, feasting on dead animal carcasses, but they would very rarely, if at all, try to attack a large dinosaur, even in groups. So these creatures wouldn't be a threat to people." Jackson chuckled. "Well then, let's hope that better be the case. We don't want these creatures to attack helpless families and their friends just visiting the park." Jackson's voice didn't turn to slight concern. "But seriously, these things creep me out. Let's pray these things aren't public safety threats to San Diego County and the state of California in general." Chapter 6. San Diego, California. Wait, hold on, guys. Just give me a moment, really quickly. Chapter 6. San Diego, California, February 2nd, 2004, early morning. Over the heart of the San Diego skyline flew a sleek corporate UGE helicopter, and in the helicopter was Martin Jackson, Caroline Rivera, Dr. Richard Morales, and Dr. Nathan Wilson on board the copter. Morales asked, "So, Wilson, how was your trip from Mongolia back to the States?" Wilson responded, "Well, I managed to take a flight set from a private jet sent by UGE at the local airport in Alaki, just outside the capital city of Ulaanbaatar. Then the flight had to be temporarily halted at the Taiwan Tao damn it. Oh god, I'm gonna butcher this. Taiwan Taoyuan International Airport in Taipei due to a tropical storm, after which the flight continued as normal up till Palo Alto, California, where I was taken from a private jet to one of your helicopters. Overall, it was a decent trip, but hey, I need to get those funds for the dig site for the next 3 years back in Mongolia." Nathan joked. Jackson stated, "You see, as we stated, this ecological reserve is like no other in the world. It is bound to open, and it is a fully functioning theme park, safari, ecological reserve, and zoological park all in one. However, even then, only the attractions and mainly over however most of the most of the attractions and mainly the northern part of the resort are fully ready. Most of the facilities and attractions in the southern parts of the park aren't ready yet for the grand opening," Wilson noted. "I see. But you stated this park is right up your alley. But what does that exactly mean?" Dr. Morales responded, "You see, this ecological reserve is actually an ecological sanctuary for living, breathing dinosaurs. And although some of the dinosaurs were already born on site, with DNA extracted from carefully preserved amber from the dinosaur era, filled in with DNA from certain avian or reptilian species to 100% genetically accurate to how they would have looked like," Morales continued. Most of the dinosaurs were actually taken from Isla Sorna directly to San Diego, or they were sent for medical evaluation in Pennsylvania before being sent to San Diego. Caroline then continued from where Morales left off. "You see, this place is called the San Diego Dinosaur Sanctuary. In order to not repeat the Isla Nublar and San Diego incidents, we spent a ton of money on security, but it was worth it," Caroline explained. "Starting in the 1980s up to the present day, scientists in South Africa have been trying to use selective breeding with the breeding lineage of Bruchel zebra in order to visually resemble the extinct quagga, which is an extinct subspecies of the plain zebra endemic to South Africa until it was hunted to extinction in the 1880s. Throughout the colonial expansion throughout the European colonial expansion in South Africa for centuries," Caroline continued, So, considering the efforts being brought back the quagga, we at Ingen and UGE could bring back creatures like the mastodon, woolly mammoths, woolly rhinoceros, dodo birds, saber-toothed cats, sorry, ignore this place. Saber-toothed cats, ground sloths, moa birds, and in this case, pure scientifically accurate dinosaurs. Wilson inquired. I'm sorry if I sound rude during this trip to the sanctuary. I'll be as kind as possible. If it's just that why would UGE and Ingen build an ecological sanctuary reserved for dinosaurs when Isla Sorna was made an unofficial ecological reserve in a restricted area by the UN and the American and Costa Rican governments to protect these animals? Like the Gene Guard Act was passed the Gene Card Act, passed by U.S. Congress in 1997, was meant was, was meant to protect the cloned prehistoric life forms on the islands, and restricted access to the islands owned by Incheon, specifically Isla Nublar and Isla Sorna, as well as the other islands in the Muertes archipelago in general, like Isla Tacano, Isla Pena, and Isla Muerte. Wait, hold on, I forgot one more. Isla Matanceros. Sorry about that, guys. Sorry if video is extremely underwhelming. I'm sorry. Wilson continued. This extended the dinosaurs, the rights of all other endangered animal species. This extended the dinosaurs, the right of all other endangered animal species, and forbade Ingen and later UGE from cloning any further prehistoric flora or fauna. Rivera sighed before explaining. After the death of John Hammond, shortly after the San Diego incident, and racking up even worse after the rescue of Eric Kirby, there had been sightings of Central American poaching vessels around the Muertes archipelago, particularly Sorna. Not only that, but between 1998 and 2000, Ingen managed to illegally create dinosaurs on the northeastern side of the island, violating the Gene Guard Act. Specifically dinosaurs like Coryphosaurus, Ceratosaurus, Ankylosaurus, and most notably the Spinosaurus aegypticus. Vera then told Wilson, although Isla Sorna is still considered a restricted area and a real-life modern-day lost world by the Costa Rican government and the U.S. Embassy in San Jose, it was vital to secure John Hammond's dying wish to secure the last dinosaurs on the planet to a truly safe facility. Not only that, but Isla Sorna's dinosaur population had been starting to decline the past 3 years due to illegal ecotourism, dinosaur poaching, and illegal dinosaur smuggling, in addition to new species like the incredibly territorial and quite aggressive Spinosaurus. Rivera then reassured the paleontologist, but I'll explain more in detail when we arrive at the resort, Dr. Wilson. Chapter 7. Sometime oh, Sometime later, the helicopter, Wilson asked. So, how long is the trip exactly? Morales responded. Well, the trip is about 40 minutes, but we will be arriving at the sanctuary very soon. A few minutes later, Wilson then proceeded to ask, so, are there any dinosaurs on the other islands in the Muertes archipelago? Morales responded, well, as of now, we don't have any evidence to suggest that Injin never made any dinosaurs on any of the other three islands. However, even after even after Operation Clean Sweep, Isla Nublar had now become a decent spot of interest to dinosaur poachers, but oddly enough, this isn't the same for Tacano, Matanceros, Muerte, or Pena. Morales then told Wilson, however, Doctor, it is possible that life on Nublar didn't simply die out. And there might be some dinosaurs still living on Isla Nublar. Heck, I assume that even Jurassic Park's Tyrannosaurus Roberta is still residing on the isle on Nublar. I find it hard to believe that Nublar is some dinosaurless barren wasteland. And although it's not likely, really, I believe that some smaller dinosaurs like Compies or wild velociraptors are currently residing on the other islands in the Five Deaths archipelago. Wilson nodded. Oh, I see. As he looked over the beautiful heart of downtown San Diego, moments later, Rivera gasped. There it is. And as Wilson looked outside, he saw the sanctuary. What would have been one of the major parking lots in the very southern part of the San Diego sanctuary wasn't really ready yet. A good chunk of the dinosaur enclosures and the guest, a small portion, just a small portion, the dinosaur enclosures and guest attractions were still under construction. Construction vehicles and construction equipment scattered around. But to the north, the main area, the San Diego Dinosaur Sanctuary, surrounding areas for most of the park, was almost complete. And over the skyline, Wilson could see the main guest area of the Dinosaur Sanctuary. There, Nick. Nick? Oh, sorry about that, guys. Wilson, beside the Innovation Center, which is a large pyramidal structure with six large path connections. The Innovation Center also had sleek, shiny blue glass all around the building, and an almost plaza-esque area with planted tropical vegetation like palm trees and small, unique fountains. Nathan also managed to see the Safari Lodge area, as in the blueprints UGE gave him back at the Zoo Chang dig site. As for the Safari Lodge, it was a group of striking, sleek, contemporary, and futuristic-esque hotels. Safari Lodge had a few nearby emergency shelters and even a tennis court and a swimming pool, with the Safari Lodge being surrounded by a large, heavy steel electrified fence boundary, only broken by two medium steel gates that are almost always open. And just to the right of the Innovation Center was the San Diego Dinosaur Sanctuary's amphitheater, which is a large, sleek, militaristic, coliseum like structure with tons of additional seating. Wilson asked, "What's up with the amphitheater?" Rivera replied, "That amphitheater is the Tyrannosaurus Kingdom attraction. That's where we housed the 7-year-old Tyrannosaurus Rex Jr., a child of the buck and doe Tyrannosaurs during the 1997 Isla Sorna incident. We just brought him back from Sorna in early January of this year." Wilson explained in a calm tone. "So you guys have a Rex?" Rivera answered, "Oh yes, that's correct, Wilson. So we all hope you enjoy your stay here at Side A."